All right, let's cut the crap and dive into this legendary shithole, the Copacabana nightclub. You probably
Yeah.
know that Barry Manilow song,
Oh, yeah.
but trust me, this place is a whole lot more than some cheesy tune.
Right.
We're talking mob ties, iconic performances,
Hmm.
and enough drama to make your head spin.
It's a fascinating time capsule of entertainment history.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's not just about the music, it's about the social dynamics, the changing landscape of New York City, and how this one club reflects so much of American culture.
So first off, can we just acknowledge the sheer balls of opening a Brazilian-themed nightclub serving Chinese food in 1940s New York City? What the fuck were they thinking?
Well, the guy whose name was on the lease was Monty Proser,
Okay.
but the real power behind the throne was mob boss Frank Costello.
Uh,
The Copa was practically a front for the mob.
A mob-run nightclub with a bizarre theme and a Chinese food menu? Sounds like my kind of place.
And to make things even more interesting, Costello put Jules Podell in charge to keep an eye on things. This guy ran the Copa with an iron fist. Yeah, and guess what? He had a no blacks policy in the beginning.
Seriously, what a piece of shit.
Yeah.
So we've got mob ties, racist policies, and Chinese food with a samba beat. This is already more fucked up than a Quentin Tarantino movie.
It's a dark chapter, but it's part of the story. Segregation was still rampant back then. But the Copa eventually became a platform for breaking racial barriers. It's fascinating how a place with such shady beginnings could evolve like that.
Yeah, good on them for finally getting their shit together.
Right.
But let's not forget the talent that came through those doors.
Right.
We're talking legends like Danny Thomas, Dean Martin, and Jerry Lewis getting their start there. Imagine being a fly on the wall for those early shows.
The Copa was a proving ground, a stepping stone to stardom. The talent that graced that stage is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And think about the pressure debuting in a mob-run club where you could rub elbows with gangsters and socialites. It must have been wild.
Talk about a pressure cooker for a debut.
Right?
But hey, if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere, right?
Absolutely. And it wasn't just comedians. You had Harry Belafonte headlining in the 50s.
Wow.
Even Podell couldn't resist the allure of a true star.
Then you have Sammy Davis Jr. shattering attendance records in '64.
That's got to count for something, right?
It's a testament to the power of talent. Davis was a force of nature, and his success paved the way for other black performers in the '60s. The Copa became a hotspot for black talent.
The Supremes debuting in '65, The Temptations, Marvin Gaye, all recording live albums there. Talk about a musical legacy. It's like the whole damn country was evolving right there on that stage. The Copa was at the epicenter of the changing cultural landscape. It's not just a nightclub, it's a time capsule of American history.
And let's not forget the infamous Yankees brawl in '57. You've got Mantle, Berra, the whole gang getting into a brawl with some drunk bowlers who are harassing Sammy Davis Jr. Now, that's a story for the ages.
It made national headlines. One of the bowlers even sued a Yankee player for a broken jaw.
Oh, shit.
It wasn't just some bar fight, it was a cultural clash. Those Yankees stood up for Davis against racial prejudice.
Sounds like those bowlers picked the wrong guys to mess with.
Yeah.
But hold on, how the hell does a nightclub go from mob ties and racial tensions to being immortalized in a Barry Manilow song? Talk about a weird turn of events.
That's the Copa for you. Always full of surprises.
Right.
In the 70s, it became a disco hotspot. The song Copacabana dropped in '78, cementing the club's place in pop culture. It's a testament to the enduring allure of the Copa, the legend that just won't die.
It's like the whole damn place did a 180. From a mobster's playground to a cheesy disco anthem. It's almost poetic in a fucked up kind of way.
It captured a moment in time, the glitz and glamour of the disco era, but the story doesn't end there.
Oh.
The clubs had to relocate several times, battling New York real estate drama and the ever-changing landscape of the city.
Talk about a survivor. This place has more lives than a goddamn cat.
It's true. But speaking of the mob,
Yeah.
let's dig a little deeper into Frank Costello's involvement.
All right. Let's get down to brass tacks. What kind of shady shit was going down under Costello's watch? I'm talking the real dirt.
Well, for starters, the Copa was a cash cow for Costello.
Okay.
It was the perfect place to launder money, skim profits, and keep the IRS in the dark.
Classic mob tactics.
Right.
But was it all just about the Benjamins? Or was there something more to Costello's interest in the Copa?
Costello was a shrewd businessman. He knew the Copa was more than just a nightclub. It was a power center. It was where politicians, celebrities, and the elite rubbed shoulders.
So basically, a giant networking event for the underworld.
Yeah.
A place to make deals, forge alliances, and maybe even intimidate a few rivals.
Precisely.
Okay.
The Copa was Costello's way of infiltrating legitimate society.
Right.
It gave him access and influence he couldn't get anywhere else.
But with all that mob money floating around, things must have gotten pretty messy, right?
Yeah.
We're talking more than a few drunken brawls, right?
Sure.
This was serious organized crime territory.
Oh, absolutely. The Copa was a hotbed of violence, intrigue, and betrayal. It was like a real-life gangster movie.
Okay.
There were rumors of shakedowns, beatings, and even the occasional disappearance.
Jesus, it sounds like walking into the Copa was like entering the lion's den.
In a way, it was, but it was also a place of incredible excitement and energy.
Yeah.
It was the epicenter of New York nightlife.
Right, so you're telling me people were lining up to get into a place where they might get whacked.
Well,
What the hell was the appeal?
it's the allure of the forbidden, the thrill of being close to danger. The Copa was a place where anything could happen.
Okay, I get it. It's like a moth to a flame. But let's talk about the man who ran the show, Jules Podell. This guy had a no blacks policy, for God's sake. What was this guy really like?
Podell was a complex character.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He was tough, ruthless, and ambitious. He ran the Copa with an iron fist. But he also had a keen eye for talent. He knew what the public wanted, and he was willing to pay top dollar to get it.
So he was a gangster with a heart of gold. Come on, don't sugarcoat it.
He was a product of his time, a businessman, first and foremost.
Right.
He did what he thought he had to do to survive. But he also helped launch the careers of some of the biggest names in entertainment. He took risks, booking unknowns, and those risks often paid off.
So we've got a mob-backed nightclub run by a ruthless but talented businessman. I bet the atmosphere in that place was electric.
The Copa was electric. It was a place where you could rub elbows with celebrities, gangsters, and socialites. It was the place to see and be seen.
Sounds like a recipe for chaos.
It was, but it was a controlled chaos.
Oh, yeah.
Podell ran a tight ship. He had a strict dress code, a no-nonsense security team, and a knack for keeping the peace.
But with all those big personalities and egos in one room, there had to be some fireworks, right?
Oh, there were plenty of fireworks.
Yeah.
The Copa was a melting pot of ambition, rivalry, and desire. It was a place where dreams were made and broken. But enough about the drama. Let's talk about the music.
All right, let's dive into that. How did the Copa become such a musical mecca?
It started with the big bands. In the 40s and 50s, the Copa was the place to see the likes of Glenn Miller, Tommy Dorsey, and Benny Goodman Podell offered them top dollar, and the Copa had a reputation for being a great venue for live music.
Those were the giants of the era. But why would they play a mob-run club?
It wasn't just about the money.
Right.
The Copa had fantastic acoustics, and the stage was perfect for showcasing big bands.
Okay.
Playing the Copa was a badge of honor for musicians,
Right.
and the audiences were incredible. The Copa drew a sophisticated crowd who appreciated good music.
So it was a win-win situation for everyone involved.
Absolutely.
The musicians got paid well and played to an appreciative audience, and the Copa solidified its reputation as a musical hotspot.
Right.
But the musical landscape was changing. By the 60s, big bands were on the decline, and a new sound was emerging. Rock and roll.
Exactly. And Podell was hesitant to book rock acts at first. He thought they were too loud, too wild, and too unpredictable.
But he couldn't ignore the changing times forever, could he? Rock and roll was taking over the world.
Eventually, Podell realized he had to evolve or die. He started booking a few rock acts, but he was very selective.
So who were some of the first rock and rollers to grace the Copa stage?
Well, there was Chubby Checker, who brought the twist to the Copa, and then there was Bobby Darin, who was a huge star at the time.
Those are pretty safe choices.
Yeah.
But what about the edgier acts, the ones who were really pushing the boundaries of rock and roll?
Podell wasn't ready for that. He wanted to maintain the Copa's reputation for sophistication and elegance. He didn't want to alienate his core audience.
So Copa missed out on the true rock and roll explosion. That's a shame. Imagine the Beatles or the Rolling Stones playing the Copa.
It would have been legendary,
Yeah.
but it wasn't meant to be. The Copa's legacy is more intertwined with another musical genre, soul.
Motown. Now we're talking.
Exactly.
The Copa became a haven for some of the biggest names in soul music.
It all started with Sammy Davis Jr., who broke attendance records in '64 and paved the way for other black performers.
And then came the Supremes, the Temptations, Marvin Gaye, Gladys Knight, and the Pips.
Right.
The Copa was a soul music paradise.
Podell finally realized the power of soul music. It was raw, passionate, and undeniably entertaining.
And it appealed to a wider audience. The Copa was no longer just a playground for the wealthy elite. It was a place where everyone could come together and enjoy great music.
It was a cultural melting pot,
Yeah.
and the music reflected that. It was a fusion of black and white, urban and rural, traditional and modern. It was a magical time. The Copa was buzzing with excitement. There was a sense of possibility in the air, a feeling that anything could happen.
Sounds like the Copa was hitting its stride. But didn't they have these dancers too?
Yeah.
Copacabana girls, right?
Absolutely. The Copacabana girls were legendary. They were beautiful, talented, and glamorous. They were the epitome of New York City nightlife.
So they were like the Rockettes of the nightclub world.
In a way, yes. They were highly skilled dancers who performed elaborate routines. They were a major draw for the Copa, but they were also symbols of beauty and desire, often the objects of male fantasy.
And they weren't just pretty faces, were they? They were talented performers in their own right.
Absolutely. Many of them went on to have successful careers in show business as singers, actresses, and dancers. They were the total package. They represented a certain kind of glamour that was unique to the Copa, the embodiment of the Copa dream. Glamour, success, and a touch of danger.
So we've got the mob, the music, the celebrities, the brawls, and these gorgeous, talented dancers. This place had it all.
It did. But the Copa also had a darker side.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Well, there were the scandals, the betrayals, and the violence that sometimes lurked beneath the surface of all that glamour.
All right, spill the tea. What kind of shady shit are we talking about? Don't hold back.
Let's just say that the Copa saw its fair share of backstabbing power struggles and even the occasional disappearance.
Damn, this place sounds more like a Scorsese film every minute. But hey, isn't that part of the allure, the danger, the intrigue, the feeling that anything could happen? It's like a real-life soap opera.
You're not wrong.
Right.
But it's also important to remember that the Copa was a place of incredible creativity and artistic expression.
Right, I get it. It was a place of contradictions, of light and shadow, of beauty and brutality. It's like a microcosm of life itself.
Exactly. And that's what makes the Copa's story so fascinating. It's a story that reflects the best and worst of human nature, the allure of glamour and the consequences of excess.
Well, that's enough to chew on for now. Let's take a break and come back to this den of debauchery in part 2.
I'm ready when you are. Welcome back to our deep dive into the legendary Copacabana nightclub.
That's right, folks. We're back for more dirt, drama, and debauchery from the Copa. Last time we talked about its mob ties, its evolution from big bands to soul music, and some of the wild characters who walked through those doors.
We just scratched the surface of those shady beginnings. Today we're going deeper, exploring the underbelly of the Copa.
We're talking the mob. The violence, the scandals, all that juicy stuff they don't put in the tourist brochures. Let's start with the mob. We know Frank Costello was the silent partner, but how deep did his influence really go?
Costello's reach extended to every corner of the Copa. He controlled the finances, the security, and even had a say in the talent booked.
So this wasn't just some passive investment. Costello was running the damn show.
Absolutely. The Copa was a vital part of Costello's criminal empire. It was a cash cow, a money laundering operation, and a power center for him.
And with the mob comes the muscle. I bet the Copa was crawling with mob enforcers, ready to deal with anyone who stepped out of line.
Violence was practically woven into the Copa's DNA. It was a dangerous place even for the celebrities who frequented it.
We already talked about the Yankees brawl in '57, but I have a feeling that was just the tip of the iceberg.
There were countless other incidents, many of them never reported to the police.
So the Copa was basically a no-go zone for the cops. They just looked the other way.
Pretty much. The cops knew better than to mess with Costello's territory. It was his domain.
And what about Jules Podell? Was he just a puppet taking orders from Costello? Or was he playing his own game?
Podell was a shrewd operator. He knew how to play the game, keeping the mob happy while also looking out for his own interests.
Sounds like he was walking a tightrope, trying to keep both the mob and the law off his back.
Exactly. It was a dangerous game, and Podell played it masterfully for a long time. But it couldn't last forever.
So what happened? Did the feds finally catch up with him? Did the Copa get shut down?
Not exactly. In the early 60s, the feds started cracking down on organized crime, and the Copa found itself in their crosshairs. They had to clean up their act, tone down the violence, and make some concessions to the authorities. Let's just say the mob's influence became a little more discreet.
So the party didn't stop, it just got a little less mobbed up.
That's one way to put it.
But I imagine all that heat from the thugs must have tarnished the Copa's reputation. Did the glamour fade? Was the magic gone?
Not entirely. The Copa still had its loyal fans, and it continued to attract top talent. But you're right, it was never quite the same. It had lost its edge, that sense of danger that drew people in.
Maybe that's what happens when a place gets cleaned up. It loses its soul.
Perhaps. But it also gained something else, a sense of history, a patina of legend.
So it became a relic of a bygone era, a reminder of a time when things were simpler, or at least that's how people remembered it.
Exactly. The Copa became a symbol of nostalgia, a place where people could go to relive their youth, or at least the fantasy of their youth.
But the Copa story doesn't end there, does it? It went on to become a disco hotspot in the 70s, and it's still operating today, right?
That's right. The Copa is a survivor. It's adapted to the changing times and managed to retain its iconic status, even if it's not the same place it once was.
Okay, let's shift gears for a moment and talk about the music. We know the Copa hosted some of the biggest names in music history, from big band legends to Motown superstars. But what was it really like to perform there, knowing that gangsters like Costello might be in the audience?
The Copa was a musician's dream. The stage, the sound system, the audience, it was all top-notch. Performing there was a sign that you had made it.
Yeah, but it was also a high-pressure gig. That Copa audience was notoriously tough.
They were demanding, but they were also incredibly appreciative. If they liked you, they let you know it.
So you had to bring your A game every night.
Oh!
No room for mediocrity at the Copa. But what about the backstage scene? Was it as wild and crazy as the onstage performances?
Oh, absolutely. Backstage at the Copa was a world unto itself. It was a place where celebrities, mobsters, and hangers-on mingled freely. Some of the most legendary stories about the Copa came from backstage.
All right, give us some dirt. What kind of shenanigans went down back there?
Well, there are the usual tales of drugs, alcohol, and romantic entanglements.
That's not exactly shocking. We're talking about a nightclub after all. Give us something juicier.
Well, there's the story of the time Frank Sinatra got into a fistfight with a comedian who made a joke about his wife.
Sinatra, the chairman of the board.
Oh,
Getting into a brawl at the Copa, that's hard to imagine.
Sinatra had a temper, and he didn't like being disrespected, especially when it came to his wife. Let's just say that comedian learned the hard way not to mess with old blue eyes.
Okay, that's more like it.
Fails.
Give us another backstage gem.
Well, there's the story of the time Sammy Davis Jr. lost his glass eye in the middle of performance. He was doing one of his signature dance moves, a high kick, and his eye popped right out.
Jesus Christ, what did he do?
He didn't miss a beat. He just kept on dancing as if nothing had happened. That's the Copa spirit. The show must go on, even if you're missing an eye.
Talk about dedication to your craft.
Okay.
All right, give us one more. Hit us with your best backstage story.
All right, here's a wild one. A group of showgirls smuggled a live monkey into the club and let it loose in the dressing room.
A monkey? What the hell were they thinking?
It was a prank, of course. They thought it would be funny to see the other performers' reactions. Chaos ensued, with the monkey run wild, throwing clothes, stealing food, and generally causing mayhem. It took hours to catch the monkey and restore order to the dressing room.
Sounds like something straight out of a Marx Brothers movie.
It was. But those showgirls were something else. They definitely know how to have a good time.
Okay, I think we've had enough of the backstage antics for now. Let's move on to something a little more highbrow.
Highbrow, at the Copa.
Maybe not highbrow, but definitely impactful. How about the Copa's portrayal in film and television? I mean, this place has been featured in some classic movies.
You're right. The Copa has appeared in countless films and TV shows, often as a symbol of glamour, excitement, and danger. It's become this iconic setting in popular culture, a visual shorthand for a certain kind of nightlife experience.
And it's not just about the setting. The Copa has also been used to explore deeper themes, like ambition, betrayal, and the dark side of the American dream. It's a place where dreams can come true, but also where they can be shattered.
Exactly. The Copa provides rich storytelling material. It's a place of contradictions, just like the characters and stories it often portrays.
Okay, let's get specific. What are some of the most memorable Copa scenes in film and television?
Well, there's the scene in Goodfellas where Henry Hill takes Karen on their first date to the Copa.
That's a classic scene. It really captures that allure of the Copa, the sense of excitement and possibility that it represented.
And in true Scorsese fashion, it also foreshadows the dark path that Henry and Karen will eventually take.
The Copa.
Yeah.
A place of both light and shadow. That scene perfectly encapsulates that duality. What else you got?
How about the scene in Raging Bull where Jake LaMotta confronts his brother Joey in the Copa's dressing room?
Man, that scene is brutal, both physically and emotionally. It shows the destructive power of jealousy and rage and it highlights the undercurrent of violence that always seemed to be present at the Copa.
That's true. The Copa was a place where passions ran high, and sometimes those passions boiled over.
Any lighter examples? We need something to break up all this gloom and doom.
Well, there's always the scene in Tootsie where Michael Dorsey, disguised as Dorothy Michaels, performs at the Copa.
Now, that's a classic. It satirizes the sexism and superficiality of the entertainment industry, but it also shows how the Copa was a place where gender roles could be blurred, even if it was just for a night.
Exactly. It was a place of transformation, where people could reinvent themselves and escape the constraints of their everyday lives.
Speaking of transformation, let's talk about how the Copa itself has changed over the years. It's had to adapt to survive, hasn't it?
Absolutely. The Copa has been through a lot. Police raids, relocations, threats of demolition. It's a survivor, a testament to the resilience of New York City and the enduring appeal of a good time.
But why has the Copa endured? What is it about this place that keeps people coming back even after all these years?
It's the history, the glamour, the legend. The Copa is more than just a nightclub. It's an institution, a symbol of a bygone era of New York City. It represents something deeper, something that resonates with people on a personal level.
I think you're right. It's a dream, a desire for escape, for glamour, for excitement. It's a place where people can go to forget about their troubles and let loose.
Exactly. And it's a reminder that no matter what life throws at you, you can always find a place to dance and have a good time.
And speaking of good times, didn't you mention something about ghosts earlier?
Oh, yes, that's right. There have been numerous reports of paranormal activity at the Copa over the years.
Ghosts. You're telling me the Copa is haunted? Don't hold back. Give us the spooky details.
Well, there have been sightings of apparitions, strange noises, and unexplained cold spots. Some say they're the spirits of those who died at the Copa, either through violence or natural causes.
So the Copa is not only a place of history and legend, but also a place of mystery and the supernatural.
Exactly. The Copa is a place where the veil between the living and the dead is thin. It's a reminder that the Copa is more than just a building. It's a place where memories linger, where spirits dwell, and where the past never truly dies.
All right, that's enough to give our listeners nightmares. Let's wrap up this part of the deep dive before things get too creepy. Join us next time as we explore the Copa's legacy and what the future might hold for this legendary and maybe haunted nightclub. Welcome back, folks. Ready for the grand finale of our Copacabana Crap Fest.
I believe the term is Copacabana, but yes. Let's wrap up our deep dive into this iconic and infamous nightclub.
All right, Mr. Encyclopedia. You win. So, after all the mob shit, the music, the monkey business, the ghosts, where the hell does the Copa stand today?
Well, it's still alive, though it's been through more reinventions than Madonna. The original spot is long gone, and it's bounced around a few locations.
So like a washed-up starlet clinging to the last vestiges of fame. Where is it now? Some dingy basement in Jersey.
Not quite. It's actually back in Manhattan, trying to recapture that old magic. But the world has changed. Tastes have changed.
Yeah, no shit. People today are more into EDM and those weird raves where everyone just stares at a DJ with a laptop.
Yeah.
Not exactly the Rat Pack era anymore.
The landscape of nightlife has certainly evolved. The Copa now faces the challenge of staying relevant while honoring its legacy. It's a delicate balancing act.
So are they trying to be all hip and modern, or are they going for that retro nostalgia thing?
It's a bit of both. They're trying to appeal to a new generation while still catering to those who remember the Copa's glory days.
Sounds like an identity crisis. It's like trying to be a vegan butcher shop. How the hell do you pull that off?
They're focusing on live music, bringing in a mix of established artists and up-and-coming acts. They're also hosting themed nights trying to recreate the vibe of different eras.
So basically they're throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks.
In a way, yes. It's a risky strategy, but it's also a testament to their determination to survive.
Survival is one thing, but can the Copa ever truly recapture its former glory? Those were different times, man.
You're right. The Copa was a product of its time, a reflection of the social and cultural landscape of post-war America. People were hungry for entertainment, for escape. The Copa offered them that and more.
It was a place of dreams, of aspirations, of a certain kind of reckless abandon. It was a place where anything seemed possible.
It was a time when New York City was raw, gritty, and full of energy. The Copa embodied that spirit.
And now, what does the Copa represent today? Another overpriced tourist trap.
It's more than that. It's a reminder of that bygone era. It's a symbol of a certain kind of American spirit, a blend of ambition, resilience, and a touch of lawlessness.
But can that spirit survive in today's sanitized, politically correct world?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Can a place like the Copa, with its checkered past and its unapologetic embrace of excess, find a place in modern society?
Only time will tell. But one thing's for sure. The Copa's legacy is undeniable. It's a story that's been told and retold in movies, in songs, and in the memories of those who are lucky enough to experience it firsthand.
And that story will continue to be told long after the lights have dimmed and the music has faded. The Copa is more than just a nightclub. It's a legend, a myth, a piece of Americana.
All right, folks. That's a wrap on our deep dive into the Copacabana. We've explored its history, its highs and lows, its triumphs and tragedies. We've delved into its mob ties, its musical legacy, its cultural impact, and even its ghostly inhabitants.
The Copa is a symbol of a bygone era, but it also reminds us that even in the darkest of times, there's always a place for music, laughter, and a little bit of mischief.
So next time you hear that Barry Manilow song, remember, there's a whole lot more to the Copacabana than just a catchy tune. It's a damn saga of gangsters, showgirls, and enough drama to make your head spin.
It's a story that's both fascinating and cautionary, a reminder that the pursuit of pleasure and excess can come at a steep price.
All right, folks, that's it for this episode of The Deep Dive. Until next time, stay curious, stay thirsty, and if you're ever in New York, maybe check out the Copa. Who knows, you might even see a ghost or two.
Just be sure to watch your back and your wallet.
Word we out.